evening and welcome to another exciting show. And tonight, you'll be quite surprised, we've got a representative from the World Economic Forum here. And in fact, this representative just represents the World Economic Forum, and here it is. It's strange, isn't it? It's sort of don't know, hang on a minute, hang on. Smells like shit. Tastes like shit. It's a bit of luck I didn't tread in it, isn't it? No, actually, joking aside, I've been using this expanding foam. This dripped down the side of something I was doing, and I thought that looks like something, so I painted it brown. It looks like, and I'm actually thinking of having this as an award for the should we say the arsehole award for services rendered by these complete and utter gits in power. And I'd actually like to award this personally to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. But if you've got any suggestions, you know, like Bill Gates or anything like that, I think this would be a perfect award. You know, I could go up and say, here it is, this represents all that you've done for the people of this country. Yes, it does look like it. But anyway, I'll show you, this is expanding foam, you see. It's not a chocolate eclair, it's expanding foam, so it's not real. But anyway, it's an open night. We might have some guests coming on a little bit later. Robert or Chris might be on. And we're going to talk about money-saving tips. Now, first of all, we're going to have a quick-looking chat. And you're probably thinking, why hasn't he got a guest this week? Well, I haven't got a guest this week because a lot of people are on holiday. Deb's still sadly mourning her father, who passed a couple of weeks ago. And Andrew Johnson couldn't make it, so he'll be on a little bit later. Next week, we've got an absolute special coming on. And I've actually made a note of his name because I can never pronounce his surname. It's Jerry, hang on a minute, Marzinski, Marzinski, and he's going to talk about entities. And he worked in psychiatry, he worked in American prisons, and he believes that schizophrenics are really listening to entities, and entities are guiding them. So it's going to be a really interesting show, more interesting than me on my own, actually. But no, actually, no, joking aside, it's going to be a good one. The week after that, I'm not sure whether John Hamer or Andrew Johnson is coming on, either one or two, I'm not too sure. But also, if people want to meet me, I will be at a place which is not too far from where I live tomorrow night. I'm actually going along to the Red Lion public house. I'm not really a boozer as such, but they've actually got something going on there, which is a gardener who will be talking, somebody called Jenny Lynn, who's going to be talking about growing plants, which is going to be very interesting. And it's 7 till 7:30 you arrive. You pay what you think it's worth, so there's no real, that much money involved. They suggest something like a £5, and I think it's worth it myself. I like those sort of things where you don't have to, it's £20 here. No, you just pay what you think it's worth, and I think that's fair. So there is. It's the Red Lion, and it's at Stansted Abbots in Hertfordshire. It's just past Ware, so it's not that far. So if you want to see me there, I'll be there, hopefully. Let's have a quick looking chat. It's really building up. So what we got tonight? Who we got in there tonight? We've got Ralph. We've got Mark. Let's put them up on the screen. Here we are. We've got Mike. Who's Mark? Where's Mark come from? I don't know. We've got Kath Holdsworth. See, I was right. I have got someone that before we started on the show on Facebook, or asked about Facebook. Kath asked, who have I got on? And here it is. It's a representative from the World Economic Forum. Here it is. And Robert Dorr. Hello, Robert. Nice touch. Opening with the Planet Suite by Portsmouth Symphonia. I know. Actually, it's the Fockham Hall National Anthem. I should have saluted, shouldn't I? That's it. We should all stand to attention. That's crap. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I think it is actually. Actually, for those of you who are tuned in late, they might think it is actual crap. No, it isn't. And Kath has said that Jerry Mawinski is great. Yeah, I'm very, very, very lucky to get him on. So, you know, I feel this is you know, I'll reply immediately as well. He's very, very efficient. We've got Robert Dawes says, Jenny Lynn is way more than just a gardener. She's a very smart and enlightened lady indeed. Oh, you know her, Robert. That's interesting. So, yes, I'll be going to see her tomorrow. She doesn't know I'm turning up. And we've got Monty. Hello, Monty. We've got Turdinator Arnold. Is that who you'd like to give this prize to? Yes, the Turdinator. Yes, that's a good one, a Turdinator. And we got Ancient Ruby. Hello. Right. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about money saving tips. And as you've noticed, I mean, I've noticed the prices are absolutely spiraling. And money saved is money earned. And my attitude is, why should you spend more than you have to? All right, that sounds a bit tight-fisted, but I mean, when I was young, we were, I can explain it. I never went short of food, but we weren't exactly rich. You know, I was born in a council house, and my parents had it tough. But I never went hungry. But you know, they went through the lean periods and things like that, and they sort of installed in me a sort of, I don't know, ways of saving money. Some people might call it tight-fisted or being frugal, and it's something they learnt from their parents, and their parents learnt from their parents, and it's something that's been carried on. And I'm always interested in, well, if you haven't got something when I was a kid, you made it. So toys, I'd make my own toys. So if I didn't have toys, I'd make them out of cardboard or anything like that. And a perfect example is a backpack. Now, nowadays, you can't actually buy frames because you used to have framed backpacks. And I know on the continent they have, and I mean, in America, they're very popular, but for some unknown reason, in this country, they're not popular. And you can't buy a framed backpack for love nor money. So I thought about this, and I thought, I'll make my own one. And I've taken I've made two, in fact. Now, this is my emergency pack. Oh, I've got hooked up here. This is what I'd use in an emergency, and it is quite a lot. I've emptied it for the sake of the program because I wouldn't be able to lift it up so easily. So this, again, is something I would grab in an emergency. And you notice it's actually on a frame. I made this frame. And if you look at the back, it's actually conduit that I made it out of. And you get it from Wix. I don't know if you're in America, you get it in Home Depot or somewhere like that. And this is about ½ inch, I suppose, diameter. And you notice I've pop riveted it. And it's very, very strong. And some people put pool noodles, or you can put pipe insulation round here to make it softer on your back. I did, and I didn't like it, so I took it off. But if you've got a heavy weight, it's much easier to have something rigid on your back like this. And again, you can make your own. And there it is, it's pop riveted, and it's very strong. And I can actually hook stuff onto this, which makes it a lot easier to carry. So that's my emergency rucksack. And then from that, I made this. And there it is, stripped down. There is no rucksack on that, but it's got the added bonus of wheels on it. So you can use it as a trolley if you wish. So you can put that on your back. And also I can put a fold up bike on there. So if you're in an emergency, I can have a fold up bike and a backpack and roll this behind me, and I can put it on my back if I wanted to. So there it is. And again, you can't buy this. You've got to make it. And I designed it and made it myself. And again, it's very, very strong. This trunking, it's electrical trunking, is really strong. So there it is. And it's really simple to build. If anybody's interested, another week I'll show you how to make it. Now, the other way to save money is, suppose you've got a blanket or a sheet that's worn in the middle. Now, this piece of paper represents a sheet that's worn. Now, you imagine that is actually, that's the wear mark in the center of the sheet. Okay, and I'm using this piece of paper. This would be a full bed sheet. Now, our parents used to do this, and their parents before them did it. What you do, if that's worn away, most people would discard it. No, what you do, you cut up the center of the sheet like this. It's not very accurate like that. So you've got two halves, and then you sew the edges together, so that becomes the center. And then you neatly sew the edges like this, and you've got another sheet. And that's what we always used to do. So remember, you've got the wear in the center of the sheet. It always goes in the center. You cut down the center, you put two sides together, you sew along there, neatly sew it, and then turn it over and sew it again. So you've got a pleat down the center. You open it up, and you can sew down the sides as well, and it's as good as new. So it's a little bit of money, and you can use it for anything. Then actually, what I do when I've got a worn sheet, I do that and actually use the sheet when I'm decorating to sort of trail around the house. So you know, when I'm decorating and painting and things like that, it's ideal. Why buy a sheet that's going to be ruined anyway when you can make your own? So that's another top tip which you can do. Now, another top tip, and I'll show you how to grow, if you've got limited space, a lot of vegetables and green stuff. Now, you could be living in a flat, you might have a balcony or something like that. And this is what I tried to actually put up when I was with Chris the gardener last week, but he wouldn't do it. But if you get, now let's have a look. There we are. Should be here. Now this is, now I just planted my tomatoes there. But what I've done, I've got some mesh. This is an old flower pot there. A big one, a big flower pot, plastic one. Got some mesh from the pound shop. It's about £1.50 now. And put that round. And then I got, turned a compost bag inside out and wrapped it round there. Now that centre pole there in the middle is a pipe which I've drilled holes into. And then I put compost around the outside and planted tomato plants. Now they look a bit ragged there, the tomato plants, because I just planted them out, but they perked up a bit. And what you do, you put kitchen scraps down that centre pipe, and what happens is that as they rot down, you put, you know, kitchen scraps there. I put banana skins down there. As they rot down, they give out what the tomato plants want. And when on a very, very hot day, it rots down ever quicker. And of course, it waters the plants, so you don't have to water them so much. Plus, it's a win-win situation. When it gets a bit cooler, the process of rotting down warms the soil up. So the plants will always be in nice warm soil. So it's a win-win situation. And what is it bananas have that tomato plants want? I can't think what it is now. It's oh, it's not calcium. It's it'll come to me later on. Now, suppose you want to be a bit lazy and you don't want to water your plants. Well, there's an automatic watering system you can have, and here it is. It's in my greenhouse. And where is it? There it is. Now this is, if you notice, I've got this, that's not white vinegar, it's actually an old white vinegar container that I used. What I do there is I put water up there with natural additive. Well, I actually put some banana skins have been in that water to give the tomato plants what they want. And out the top, you'll notice there's two, looks like string, it's wool. Now, if you get wool or jute and you make it damp, and then you pop it into the container of water one side, and then the other side of the wool you put into your plants, that will water your plants for about a couple of days, almost a week, because a natural capillary action happens. So you notice how wool soaks water up. Well, it does exactly the same thing. It's soaking the water from the container into the tomato plants or any other plants that you want. So that means I can be a bit lazy and I don't have to water my tomato plants on a daily basis. I can water them whenever I want. I just look at inside the greenhouse, and if that water's got a bit low, I just top it up. It's that simple, very easy, and that's the problem. Mark Anthony, thanks, Mark. It's was it potassium? That's what the word I was thinking of. Potassium. Tomato plants love potassium, and so do roses. So that's it. But be careful with banana skins, because if you put banana skins around your roses, you attract ants. That's what I make the mistake of doing. So what I do is I soak the banana skins for about a week in water, take the skins out and put them, the wet banana skins, down the central tube there to add fertilizer for my other tomato plants, because I have quite a few tomato plants. I like tomatoes. Now, the other money saving, I'll just get that out of the way. There we are. The other money saving items are, as I've said before, when you've bought, say, a lettuce or a cabbage from the supermarket, don't discard the root. Put it in water. Now this is a lettuce, and you notice it's growing leaves at the top. Now lettuces now, I like the little gem lettuces. They're about 95p to £1 for two, which is a bit steep, but this is organic. The one I buy from the supermarket isn't organic. And I just put that in water, and then when those leaves get a bit bigger, this is in a jam jar, I then put them in a pot, and you will get, this is one of my cabbages, and I'll just put this up. Here it comes. Now that is the cabbage leaves. They actually regrow. It's cost me nothing. Now this is far better than what you buy in the shops. I don't bother to cook those leaves. I eat them raw. They're really sweet. They're gorgeous. Fantastic. I've never tasted cabbage so tasty. It's a sweet cabbage that came from. And next to it, you can see some celery growing as well. So again, that's in my greenhouse, which is a little bit cluttered at the moment. But that is what you can do. You can grow from roots. And I've found the easiest is cabbage. The second easiest is lettuce. Really, really easy. So there you are. That's a few top tips. Now, if you've got any top tips, I'll get me tongue tied here. If you've got any top tips, please say. So I'm going to go back into chat now, and I'm going to have a quick look at the banners. Where are we? Oh yes, and Fockham Hall. If you do want instructions on how to do this, that's it. That will be, I'll put that on my Telegram channel, and also what I'm going to tomorrow night with that gardening, that will be actually on my Telegram channel as well. So there it is. Now let's have a look back in chat, and my word, we've certainly got a lot in there tonight. What we got now? We got here. Right. Right. Hello everyone. Hope you're all well. I'm late. 100 lines already written. Plus you've got detention as well. So, oh, you're up in Crista Gardner land, aren't you, Louise? Yes. I think the poor sod hasn't worked much this week because it's been raining. It's been awful. And now, where are we? We've got here. Got a Kath Holdsworth says potassium is great for getting rid of parasites. I didn't know that. Supplements are available. That's interesting. So if I put banana skins, if we put loads of them round Westminster, would that get rid of them? The parasites in there, I'm wondering, you know. So you never know. But anyway, on with some more top tips. Just one moment. Now, when you build a fence, now I always like to think outside the box. Now, I don't know if you've had trouble with garden fences, but loads of people around my way, people I know, I've had, they don't last very long unless you've got, say, concrete columns, which I don't like very much. The timber tends to rot away, and the life expectancy of a garden fence is often less than 10 years, even though they've got a guarantee. So I decided to go one better and do something that nobody else has done, and people laughed. And I said, no, you're not going to do that, are you? And I said, yeah. And this is my garden fence that I erected. Now, this garden fence is, I bought the panels, yes, from Wix, but you notice that the columns are actually guttering, brown guttering, square guttering, which doesn't rot and is very quick to erect, because what you do, I worked this out for myself, I hammered stakes into the ground and then put the guttering over the stakes and then filled the guttering with expanding foam. That's how I got this trick doo-doo. And that holds the fences in place. They will never rot. They'll last forever. And on the top of the fences, I've actually put guttering the wrong way round so that it stops it, because fences always rot either from the bottom or from the top. Well, I've left an air gap at the bottom of the fence of about 1 inch, and I put that along the top so that when it rains, the rain just drips off. And often, if the rain comes down exactly vertically, the fence doesn't get wet, so it's as dry as a bone. Now, you're probably wondering about the balls on top. How did I make them? Because I actually didn't buy them, I made them. And by the way, people are sort of, you know, a neighbour of mine looked at me and said, where did you get those columns from? Didn't quite guess that they're actually guttering. Now, these concrete balls on the top, I've made them. And how I made them is, hang on, I'll get myself back here. There we are. This is a dowsing ball that you use in a washing machine. And I had quite a few of these. So what I did, I cut them in half, okay, then taped them back together again. And then this is a saucer that you get, you know, you put flower pots on top of. And I decided to use these as a molds. And these are the molds that I've actually made, if I can find them. Where are we? Right. Here they are. Now these, what I've done is this, you notice on the left, I've actually filled the dowsing ball with concrete, or cement rather, and I put an old rusty nail the wrong way up in the cement, and I got cardboard over the top to actually hold the nail in place. And then you notice above that these saucers, and then I make, as you notice on the right hand side of the photograph, these balls, and of course they fit on top So they're just going off. You notice they're a funny colour there. And I can only do 2 at a time because I've only got 2 dowsing balls I could spare. And then that's how I got, here it comes, the balls on top there. So, and it cost me, well, apart from the cement and the sand, which is pennies really, so far I think it's lost, I've got change out of what, £4, £5 or something like that. You know, so that's it. So again, if anybody's interested and wants to know how I did it further, please ask, and I will send for, you know, I can actually supply you with further details of how I actually did it. So it's surprising if you think outside the box what you can do. And of course that fence will never rot. The timber might, yes, but I can always replace that. But the columns will never rot because it's plastic. And again, there'll always be a nice brown colour, and it blends in with the rest of the surrounding area. Now, people have, well, as I say, one of my neighbours has suggested that I paint those balls, but I'm going to leave them because I think they're all right, a sort of concretey colour. You know, thought of green or brown, but if it's a different shade of brown, it won't look good. And green, I don't know, but it looks, I think it looks all right stone. So there we are. So let's go back in chat. Now, oh, that's very kind, Louise. Your fence looks lovely, Chris, and very practical. Thank you. And we got Hereditors Get Hooked. A week before harvest, use pure water to flush out the fertilizer. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Yes, thanks for that tip. I'll put that. And it's got, oh bugger, not a detention too. There's another one I will have to skip. Chris, rained. Yes, Chris, rained for a week on and off, and gusty too here in the flatlands. Yeah, it was terrible here. I mean, I actually, because in the summer, if I've only got a short journey, I go by bike. I don't bother with my car. You know, I leave it at home. And I couldn't use my bike because it's too windy, you know. And thanks, Ancient Ruby. Clever old stick, you know. And Holsworth says, love the idea of guttering. Very clever, thank you. It doesn't cost that much either. And when you look at it, as it will last, and it's unusual because, where am I? Because when you look at it, the reason the guttering's there is to say, so it forms a drip. So rain, it keeps the top of the fence dry, and the water then can drip off very, very easily. The only thing that was a bit I didn't like doing was adding the expanding foam to the inside of the uprights. It goes everywhere. It's always a messy job because it expands. But I did it, and it was a bit windy that day, so I had to put props up against the fence to hold it. But it's surprising how it does hold it. And of course, it's a very quick method of erecting a fence. And but as I say, nobody else has got a fence that looks like that, and probably nobody else wants a fence that looks like that. Now, the other thing you can do is to save money. That is, I don't buy plastic, well, I do buy plastic containers, but what I do, I go to the pound shop or cheap shop and then buy a plastic plant container. Now, if you put that out in the sun, because they're not ultraviolet protected, they actually break down. But I use it as a mold, and what I do is actually make my own concrete pot. Now, what you can do, that's one I got from a mold. I've just got to set it because I've actually made a raised patio. You can see that in the back. And you notice I've just got that pot where I'm going to actually mortar it into the top there. But the fancy bits around the top are actually an old t-shirt that I put in a concrete with no sand. I made some cement up with water, soaked the shirt in it, and made it look like rope. And then if you look at it, it looks like rope around the outside. And I've got some house leeks in the top there that I'm growing, and in the pot. And again, it's concrete, it won't rot. And I've just got this cheap plastic mold that I use all the time. I did cast that in 2 spaces. You notice it's a funny color because it just came out the mold when I took the photo. But you know, that is something that you can do, which again, if you went along and you bought a pot like that, it would cost 20 times as much as a plastic one, and the cement and sand is negligible. It doesn't cost very much, really. Now, it says here, Mark Anthony has said, great idea with the guttering for fencing, Chris. Cheap and practical. Well, it is. It's very cheap and it's very practical. Nobody else has got anything like it. And Ancient Ruby says, I used to do that, Chris. I made a big bird bath years ago and it's still standing. Yes, that's interesting. I'd like to see a picture of it. And we got here, a man of many trades. Yes, but master of none. Fence, potter, gardener. Good for you, Chris. We all need to learn to be more resourceful. Well, the thing is that we're going to have to be resourceful. Because, as I say, when I was a kid, if I didn't have a toy, I made one. And, you know, give me a cardboard box, I'll make a steam engine out of it or anything. I mean, that's the way. And I think it's more fun. It's much more fun doing that. Because, you know, if I went down the road and bought all the components and put the fence up, but I've done it myself. And I think, you know, and I think also it keeps the old gears going around because I love design. I love designing things and being creative. And, you know, it's much more fun. You know, now Ancient Ruby has said here, if you like your pots old looking, paint yogurt all over it. Well, that's an idea, isn't it? And the sun will do the rest. It's a quick effect. Oh, thanks, Ancient Ruby. I'll give that a try. Yes, I suppose all the sort of moss and that grows on it, and that's interesting. Yes, I'll paint yogurt on there. Trouble is, it might attract all the bleeding flies. That's the trouble, isn't it? Right, we're going to have another glug. Now, with saving, things like money saving, yes, as Ancient Ruby said, it is moss. Yeah, moss grows on the side. Yeah, that's interesting because I've actually made pots from coconut instead of sand. And you can actually get sort of like coconut fertilizer, and I added that to the cement mix, and it comes out sort of looking pretty old and crummy, you know. Oh, and it says here, no flies. Yes. Well, I don't know what's happened. I think the entire fly population, I haven't seen any for ages, and they all decided to swarm yesterday. I don't know what's happened. There's loads of them everywhere. And then suddenly they disappeared again today. I don't know what the hell's going on. But with money saving tips, it's the way you sort of go forward. Like, for example, do you need an oven? Think about it. Do you need an oven? Because I use a slow cooker. Did you know that you can use a slow cooker as an oven? All right, it takes 3 times as long to cook something, but I generally put my lunchtime meal on at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning in the slow cooker, and by lunchtime I generally have my lunch about 12:30, 1 o'clock. It's ready. You can do jacket potatoes. They come out absolutely delicious, and you use it as an oven, but but because it's a slow cooker, it actually takes obviously a lot longer. And the tip is, when you use a slow cooker as an oven, get some kitchen paper and put that under the lid. And the reason why is because the kitchen paper absorbs moisture and it makes the food go crispy. Because if you don't absorb the moisture from the food, then it won't go crispy. So that's why I have a nice crispy jacket potato, because I actually put kitchen paper under the lid of the slow cooker. But it's surprising what you can actually cook in a slow cooker. I do cakes that way as well. I'll put the cake mix in about 7 o'clock in the morning. In about 3 hours, it's done. 3 or 4 hours, and it's done perfectly. And when you think an oven uses something like 1,500 to 2,000 watts, and a slow cooker my one uses 90 watts. Think about it. It's a big difference. Saves you quite a bit of money. The other one is thermal cooking. Now, I haven't brought them with me, unfortunately. I haven't got them here. But if you go and they often have special offers on in the supermarket where you can buy food flasks. Now, if you get those food flasks, as I've done, and out of an old pair of trousers, the legs, what I do, I cut them off, and I make things they're useful for putting insulation in and insulating these food flasks. It's a pity I didn't actually bring them in. I forgot all about them anyway. But what I'm going to say is what you can do. I think it was last week, I showed you how to make a stove. So after the show, if you haven't seen it, I'll show you how to make a stove out of 2 tin cans. Now, if all the electricity goes off and you want to cook a meal, so potatoes or something like that, those cans with the fuel in it only boil water for about 15 minutes. But what you can do is you preheat the flask using the water, then you cook the potatoes for 10 minutes, put them in the food flask, seal it, then cover the food flask with towels or whatever, and then in a couple of hours' time, those potatoes are cooked perfectly. And it's the same with vegetables and all other things like that. You could actually cook an entire meal using one of those or 2 of those small stoves that I made, those penny stoves, if all the electricity goes off. And of course, if you use bioethanol fuel and it's in the middle of winter, you can use that indoors, as long as you put the penny stove on a tile or something like that, because it gets extremely hot. I've actually done this, and what I sometimes do is I cook a meal for just 10 minutes. That's all I cook it for. Put it in the thermal flasks, and then I go out, and when I come home, the vegetables and that are all cooked, so I don't have to worry about cooking vegetables. They're done. And the good thing about it is because there's no electricity involved, you can leave it. It's quite safe. It's not going to blow up or anything like that. And it's surprising, with thermal cooking, it tastes a lot better, I think. And of course, it traps the flavour in. So things like cabbage and things like that taste a lot better. So it's surprising. Another thing I do, if I go camping sometimes, I'll take these food flasks and I'll prepare it. And by the time I get to my destination, I've got a ready cooked meal. Sometimes I go over in the weekdays to see Miles, the acupuncturist, over in Waltham Abbey, and I might take a meal in with me. We have a scoff, and what I do then is I actually cook the meal overnight in my slow cooker via a timer. It switches on at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I put it in a food flask, put it in the backpack, drive to Miles's place, or if it's a nice sunny day, I might cycle there, and then when I get there, there's the meal. It's hot, piping hot. It's been cooking whilst I'm travelling there. And the only thing I would not advise cooking doing the thermal method is rice. You've got to thoroughly boil rice because of bacteria. But the thing is, I do pasta. I don't cook pasta on a stove. I put it in a flask. It takes half an hour in a flask. Done. That's it. You can actually use an ordinary thermos flask to cook pasta. You don't have to put it on a pot. All you do, you put boiling water into your thermos flask, heat it up, and then you put the dry pasta, into your thermos flask, pour the boiling water in, seal it up, wait half an hour, done. And it's done to perfection as well. So that's another top tip. You could also cook porridge that way. Before you go to bed at night, put porridge in a food flask, Make sure it's got plenty of towels and things wrapped around it. And first thing in the morning, again, you can do that if you're camping. You wake up and there's your porridge done perfectly, and it really does taste fantastic. And you eat it straight out of the food flask. It's all cooked and it's still hot. So that's the amazing thing. And so these are just a couple of the ideas that I just sort of take for granted. I like doing, I enjoy doing. And I also, the other thing you can do to save money, now, I don't take my car along to be serviced. I do all the servicing myself. Always have done. And it's really easy. It's not that difficult if you've got a conventional car. What the garage charges a fortune to do. I was thinking of doing a film on how to, anybody, ladies can do it, how to service your car. And it's not rocket science. I mean, unless you've got an electric car, that'd be a bit different. But if you've got a conventional car, it is very, very straightforward. Unless you've got a smart car, because with my smart car, I have to take part of the bodywork off to change the plugs, which is a pain in the ass. But no, with a conventional car, I would say almost anyone can actually do a service on it, and it's all very, very straightforward. And really, again, I might do a film on it, on how to do a service. And there's little tricks that you can do. You don't need specialist tools either. You can make your own tools. For example, if you, with a chain wrench, if you've got an old bicycle chain, you can make a chain wrench to get oil filters off with. And it doesn't cost you any money. Find an old bike chain, you've got a chain wrench, things like that. And of course, when you do your own servicing, you know it's done correctly because you've done it, and you know that the oil has been changed and some sort of grease monkey hasn't topped it up. And the other thing that garages do, they always overfill an engine with oil. Now, when I first bought my car, they'd done that, and oil had got into the turbo. So there's oil dripping down from the turbo. Because, hello, we've gone off again, and are we going to come back soon? Yes, we're back. It's all right. It happens every week. There we go. So that's the thing, because what they do, they look up and say an engine needs 5 litres of oil. Well, they'll drain off the oil and they'll put 5 litres back in. But what they don't realise, there'll probably be about a quarter or half a litre still in the engine, because it takes a long time to drain oil off of an engine. So your engine will then have half a litre and some people say, oh, it's better to have too much than not enough. Rubbish, because you put incredible strain on your seals. And of course, it's in the garage's interest that they do put strain on your seals in your engine, because that's extra work for them, isn't it? So that's the thing. Always measure what comes out of your engine with oil, and make sure you put exactly the same as what comes out as what goes in, and then top it up gradually and watching the dipstick, little bit at a time. Never overfill an engine with oil. It's a way of wrecking an engine. Never do it. And garages are notorious for doing that. The other thing is changing the disc pads on your car. Very easy to do. It's not, again, if little techniques that you can use, which I've learned over the years, it's not that impossible. The only problem now is electronics. I'm not very good at electronics, and I don't touch the electronics. So let's go back in chat. Let's have a quick look. We've got Louise Wilcott says, I love my slow cooker. It gives me time to do a lot of other things, but I don't do much more than beef casseroles, bolognese, stew, etc. I never knew you can make cakes in it. Yes, you can. Yes. But remember, the trick is always to get some, what do you call it? Those kitchen rolls. Put some, kitchen paper. Put that under the lid so it soaks up the moisture. That's the most important thing when you use it as an oven, because if you put moisture in there, everything comes out soggy. So you just need one sheet of kitchen paper, and that's it. I mean, the jacket potatoes are absolutely fantastic. but you can. I mean, I do banana bread sometimes in my slow cooker. I don't really use the oven much at all, really. I use a slow cooker most of the time. It's surprising. Now, oh, thank you. I'm going to have a halo over my head now. Yeah, you're wondering. Thanks, Kat. Well, it was part of my occupation was is designing. So design is sort of second nature to me. It's something I've always loved, and I've always liked to create things that other people haven't got. But it's like with jeans. Now, if you've got a pair of jeans and you want to keep I'll have to bring a pair. I didn't bring them along. I was going to. I forgot. A difficult age. But there's a way of taking jeans up where a lot of people just cut the bottoms off if they have jeans that are too long for them. Because that's the trouble I've got. I've got short legs, you see. And so, no, not like that artist, no. And normally you can only get 31 inside leg, and I'm 29. So when you take jeans up, you can still keep the yellow strip along the bottom. But I'll show that another week, But now it says here what we got. Oh, hang on, it got this. It says I've never been one of being educated. What's it? I've never been one for being educated. But if lessons were like this, I'd have been far more attentive, and I would have learned some very useful things. Thanks, Chris. Well, that's very, very kind of you. Thanks, Louise. That's much appreciated. Well, there was a teacher during World War II that, and this has all been sort of hushed up, and I can't remember her name, which is off the top of my head. But there was evacuees that came out of London. These poor kids, all they'd ever seen is brick walls and concrete. And they came out to the country, and the classroom was a little bit full. And I think it was in Bomb Alley, Kent. So they had these V1 bombs coming over, flying bombs and things like that. And the children, she decided to take the children into the woods for a class. And she found that when they were in the woods, the children were far more attentive than when in the classroom. It was quite amazing. And she said these children who had been normally looking around the room and not very attentive were very attentive when they were in the woods. Back to nature. And this is what I've always thought, that to learn something, a person has got to want to learn something. Now, for example, I've always had a problem with algebra. Algebra is something that I am bored, I'll be very blunt with you, bored shitless with. I'd also make the world's worst accountant. I mean, having my own business, I have to keep books. I'm world's worst at bookkeeping. I'm terrible at it. I hate it. To me, it's just sort of figures. It's all sort of it's all blur to me. I think I'm what I call number dyslexic. But strangely enough, I can remember calculations. And this is the weird thing. When it comes to finances, yeah, I'm okay with finances. I'm very careful with them, yes. Tight-fisted, some people would say. But seriously, it's got to be of a practical use. So if I do calculations, say if I make a sundial or something like that, the numbers mean something to me. So I'm interested in doing all the calculations and getting the calculations correct. When I'm designing something on CAD, that's computer-aided design, I make sure that everything adds up. But when it comes to accountancy, nope, shit, because we're all, if you work for yourself, we're all, slave accountants for the government. Now, it says here, Ancient Ruby, this is why we need the over 50s and look out for them, because they are full of ideas to save money. Well, let's face it, my parents learnt from their parents, and their parents learnt from their parents. But we don't have that so much now, Now it says, Mark Anthony has said, I've always done basic servicing on all my cars. I only take it to a garage for major jobs. Well, I need to go to a garage for my MOT. That's it, basically. And that reminds me, I've got one coming up this Saturday. And I don't know, sort of something about MOTs. I don't know, but they're thinking of saying, changing it now for every 2 years. That makes me smile. I'm happy at that. I don't mind, But no, it's I go to a garage, which is sort of, I wouldn't say in the middle of nowhere, but it's a really good garage, and it's at WWII. It's terrific, and I'm going to take my fold-up bike and cycle into town because there's nothing much around there. Well, there is. I mean, there's all there's the weir, and there's the sort of, it's a very touristy sort of area, but it's in the middle of nowhere. But that's the best place to go for an MOT. Now, this is an interesting one here. We've got here, yes, we need the older generations for their wisdom and their ability to teach us things, the powers that shouldn't be, never wanted us to know. Well, that's right. Another thing I was going to say is what people overlook. Now, watches. Now, I showed you the Swiss Army knife last week. Now, this is a watch, an ordinary quartz watch. Yes, I happen to like, this is a Casio, but I happen to like Seikos, and they were the first to have quartz. And now what you do need, and I always insist I have, is an automatic watch which is not battery powered. And the reason why is if we have something like what they call it, thing from the sun, what is it now, which causes a power outage, and everything electrical goes dead, at least you'll have a good timekeeper, and you need a good timekeeper if you're going to fend for yourself. So always have an automatic watch. And what I mean by an automatic, the one that when you move your wrist, it winds up. And one of the best is a Seiko 5. Seiko 5, they started making them apparently in 1965. And Seiko were the first watch company to be totally automated. And what I like about Seiko is they're Japanese. The raw materials go in one end of the factory, and the watch comes out. They don't subcontract as many watchmakers do, and they make everything from the strap right the way through the whole watch. And they were the first to invest in technology. And this was what, well, they started making, I think, the 5 in 63, and in 1965 they actually made it that the watch was not touched by human hands. It went in one end, it came out, it was packed, and it was absolutely perfection. And it's so good, the design of a Seiko 5, they're still made today. You still buy a Seiko 5. So that's the watch to have. And the other thing with a Seiko 5, I haven't got one here, but is instead of the winder being there, it's on the side. And it's much easier to wind up on the side than it is in the center. Little details like that. But again, if there's a power outage, watches I don't think would work. This is what they call it, a solar discharge. So it hits the earth, and electric cars, they would be kaput. We'd be without power for a long time. So you would need an accurate timepiece, and that's why always have an automatic watch, as well as obviously a cheaper one, a Casio, which is quartz, which is incredibly accurate. They are probably the most accurate of the lot. This watch loses, it says about 10 seconds a month, or gains plus or minus. It isn't. It's spot on every month. I haven't had to adjust it since the clocks went forward. And then it was only about 5 seconds out, if that. Now with a Seiko 5, that's an automatic, 21 joules it is. That's inaccurate by about 20 seconds a month, 10 or 20 seconds a month, which is not bad for an automatic watch, which isn't quartz. So I'm not getting anything from Seiko, I assure you. I'm just, it's worth paying out some money. The price of them has really shot up in recent years. And on the second-hand market, they only drop about a third of the price. They keep their price. They're so good. They're absolutely brilliant. They make divers watches as well. I mean, this watch can go down, they say, to 100 meters. I very much doubt it, you know. But now, it says here, had mine last week. This is Ancient Ruby. It's about the MOTs. Had mine last week. Failed MOT for the first time on the suspension. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I blame the deep potholes all over the place. Cost me 400 quid. Well, our cars have to be MOT. Why can't they MOT the roads? And why can't we fine the government for not? Because this, what we pay on road tax, is nothing. It's a con. It's just revenue. That's all it is. It doesn't go towards the roads. I mean, the roads around where I live, the potholes, absolutely terrible. I mean, if you're in a smart car, it's especially worse, as you feel every bump like this. And tell you what gets me is these what they call sleeping policemen, these road humps. They've got them around where I am. Oh, it's a pain. It really is. But again, when you're on a push bike, you've got to watch every pothole because it throw you off. You know, but no, I actually find that this is the thing. You pay this so-called council tax. What for? Because they don't repair the roads. They do sod all. And to me, it's legalised protection racket. And that's what I actually put on the little card that you have to pay it with, you know. But now, I'm sorry to hear that, Ancient Ruby. What car have you got? You know, just out of interest. I'm nosy sod like that. Kath Holdsworth says, I have an internal clock and nearly always gauge the time to the nearest 20 minutes. Watches break down on me every time. Oh, yes. Well, actually, I know that some people had something to do with magnetism in their body. And I went to school with a kid that couldn't wear a watch because every watch he had went kaput because of something to do with electricity in their body, something like that. But no, I mean, I'm very much into accuracy in watches. They've got to be absolutely spot on accurate. I've never had a timepiece quite like this. You know, this is as almost, well, this is better than a Seiko. I was quite surprised, you know, but I think that I'd be lost without a watch. I've always had a watch, you know, it's one of those things. And did you know where they came from? Because it come from the First World War. Because apparently the men had pocket watches, and they had to get them out of the pocket. They had to struggle, you think, in the trenches and things like that. And when they were going to go over the top and get to, they played a game called, as Billy Connolly called it, that's when he was funny, and I don't think he's much funny now, cop your lot, you know, when he went over the top and you copped your lot. They would get their pocket watch out and say, oh, it's, you know, such a time. Well, then they decided blokes would tie them to their wrists, these pocket watches, because it's such a faff to put them back into all your pack and everything. And then the idea carried on, and that's when wristwatches came about. It actually came from the First World War. So that's the thing. Now, we got here, Ancient Ruby says, same here, I cannot wear them. They stop or speed up. And Mark Anthony has said electromagnetic pulse. And Ancient Ruby said, agree, Chris, all a bloody con. Potholes are 6 inches deep in areas. Well, I think that around where I am, I think they're going to issue fishing licenses so people can fish in them because it's so bleeding deep. Slight exaggeration there. Actually, there's a pothole near where I live that should get an award. It's the oldest pothole in history. And since I've lived here, it's been there. Now, I don't know, around where I live, there's a place called East Harts College, and there's a roundabout nearby. And actually, they've just filled it. But it was like that for years. And I always caught it when I went round a roundabout with my car. It's bloody pothole. And I don't know whether it's something to do with subterranean rivers or anything like that, because there's lots of water around there. But they would fill it up. They just repaired it. And within about a month or two, the bleeding thing would be back again. So there's a pothole there. It's about 40 years old. Actually, oh, Ruby, poor you. You've got a Peugeot. It's not as bad as having a smart car, though. Because, you know, you say, people, what car you got to say? Smart car. Oh, I think really had a history of mental illness. Yeah. Have you tried playing the French national anthem inside the Peugeot? That might help. Don't say anything rude about, you know, the French president. It might help a little bit more, you know. But Peugeot, yeah, they're generally okay, aren't they? Yeah, they're sort of, you know. But the problem I've got now, especially with my oh, by the way, I found out that my smart car, which is 20 years old, no, hang on, 2002, it's over 20 years old, is ULEZ compliant. So I can actually drive sort of, I didn't realise that, but unfortunately, Matilda, which is my Toyota, isn't. I wouldn't have thought so because it's a sort of 2 litre well, it's not a gas guzzler actually. It does about 39 to the gallon, and that's without all the modern bells and whistles, and that is a 1989. So as you see, I have modern cars. I've got 6 bikes, they're all wrecks, which I've done up. No, seriously, the best bike I ever had I've got is what my neighbour gave me. But the rest of them were wrecks that I did up. And that's what I like doing. That I like doing up wrecks. And it's similar with cars, you know, I sort of, you know, make them into worse wrecks. Do you know what penguins and electricity companies have got in common? Anybody? Do you know? They can both stick their bills up their arse. See? So there we go. We should send them the bills, this is the council, for any road-related damage to our cars and demand they pay them. Yes, and I tell you what gets on my tits is when they do road surfacing, they don't put a road roller over all the chips and that, and they let the cars embed the chips into the surface, and it drip blasts the underside of your car. And also it's very dangerous because I've been walking along pavement and these little chippings get thrown up by cars' tyres. And I've had one go bang, whiz past my nose and just sort of, you know, now if that hit you, I don't know how fast it's going, it could blind you, it could do anything really. And I don't know if anybody has been hurt by these chippings, but it's absolutely disgusting. It really is. It's all to save money. And the word I was looking for is solar flare. That's right. Thank you very, very much, Louise. Yes, if we have a solar flare, which, oh, well, the last one I think was the Carrington, was it the Carrington event, which was 1857, and it blew out all the telegraph poles. But nobody really had electricity apart from telegraph companies and that, so nobody didn't make much difference. And as many people say, if we had another Carrington event, which is a solar flare, hunter-gathering societies wouldn't notice sod all difference. They wouldn't notice any difference at all. But we would be we just wouldn't. You know, how would we survive? There'd be no electricity, and again, that's why you need alternatives. Always have a backup. Also, you need rocket stove as well. And again, on another week, I'll show you how to build a rocket stove. And you make it out of cement and that's gone. But you make it in certain materials. And the rocket stove is the most efficient way of cooking. So again, you should always have backup just in case, you know. And now it says here, don't worry about what the sun may do. It will be the man-made EMP that will wipe out everything electrical. Yes, that's right. That's what they're working on, those sort of weapons. Yeah. But you see, the thing is that you know, the big problem is that you don't know what they're going to fling at us. I mean, what really did shake me was the old when it started 3 years ago now. Overnight, you know, I remember sort of seeing something on the internet about something nasty flying around. The next thing, bloody hell, you know, the whole country was locked down, and it shook me, really. It really did, and it shook me how, shall we say, people were like sheep and did exactly what they're told, and I was about the only one that didn't, and I never wore a mask, and I never did anything that the government said. Basically, I went out when I wanted, went out several times, and couldn't give a shit, basically. And apparently, what they're saying now is, oh, it was only a guidance, it wasn't a law. Oh yeah, bullshit. Yeah. Why were people arrested in that? Ancient Ruby, it is very, very reliable. Is that your Peugeot? Yes, they are reliable. But yes, it is the potholes that are doing the suspension in. Now, it says here, my other car is a Mercedes, laugh out loud. Well, my smart car's a Mercedes. Yeah. Actually, the most reliable car is supposed to be the Volvo, isn't it? The old Volvos. They're supposed to be the most, they go forever, but they're very, very heavy on petrol. That's the thing, you know. Now it says, Ancient Ruby, we've got an old Mercedes C180. There's not a lot we can do to it ourselves. It was a very cheap car. Well, if they don't clobber you with, you see, the thing is, I don't know whether I should be saying this or not, but if you've got a older diesel car, you can run it on vegetable oil. And of course, if you tell the tax people, which of course I would do, wouldn't I? You know, mind you, both my cars are petrol, but no, you can. That's why I think they're trying to phase out diesel, because people, you can run old diesel engines on virtually anything. And if you go onto YouTube, there's an old edition of Jeremy Clarkson show. I don't know what they called it now. Is it Top Gear or something like that? And he interviews a bloke who runs his car on part cooking oil and part diesel. Now, the big problem is cold weather and also starting it. And there's a kit you could get, you can still buy it, where you have two tanks, one smaller tank of diesel and a larger tank of vegetable oil, which you could buy from the supermarket. You buy from these cash and carry places. And what you do, you start your diesel engine off using diesel fuel, and then once it's running, you flick it over to running on ordinary vegetable oil. Now that's fine if you've got a long distance to go. So you're driving from Land's End to John O'Groats or something. Fine, that's great. And then before you get to your destination, you then flick it back so that it's running on diesel again. So it'll start in diesel, because if you stop it and it's in vegetable oil mode, then you might have problems starting it again. So that's that. And trouble is, you've got to keep on remembering switching that over. And the law of averages, you're going to forget anyway. But you can, as I say, you can run a diesel engine on an old one, virtually anything. And people don't realise is that that's how we got our food, thanks to diesel. Because diesel has opened up the world, because ships are run on diesel engines, buses, big lorries, it's all diesel engines. Because petrol was a byproduct, they didn't know what to do with it, so they put it into cars, because cars were originally built to run on peanut oil, believe it or not. So yes, that's another subject, you know. Now, it says here, Ancient Ruby said, my brother had one of those, if I remember correctly. A Mercedes C180. Mercedes are quite good, actually, but I'm very much into Japanese cars. I'm very much a Toyota enthusiast. I've always loved Toyotas, and unfortunately Nissan have lost the plot now, I think. The Nissan Leafs, I don't know if you've heard, the Nissan Leaf, which was the first all-electric car, or one of them rather. Well, they're coming up to about 11 years old now, and apparently there's people that's refurbishing the batteries of them. and doing it cheaper. But personally, I wouldn't touch an electric car with a 10-foot sterilised barge pole, because I'm thinking of all the electromagnetism inside. And no, I much more prefer a more conventional car. And the range is so pitiful, it's just not worth it. I remember your self-made exemption card. It was awesome. Oh, thank you very much. You remember? Yeah, I did an exemption card when I went into supermarkets, and I kept it in my pocket. I wouldn't hang it around my neck. And I just show it, and it took the piss, basically. I can't remember what it said on it, but it just said exempt, and in small words at the bottom, they go, from this nonsense and things like that. And I was like, but no, you know, I was exempt because, you know, I have FFB, fully functioning brain. I know somebody that actually said that to somebody. They because Marks and Spencer's used to have people sitting at a desk as you walked in. They'd say, you know, have you got a mask and all that? And this woman walked in and said, I've got FFB. But, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do understand. Little did they know, FFB, fully functioning brain. I love taking the piss. I really do. Right. Now, Louise Wilcox says, my son knows how to make both petrol and diesel from plastics. Oh, yes, that's interesting. We used to have an old van we used to run on used cooking oil. The only problem was I always smelt like a chip shop. Yeah, I've never actually had a diesel. I've never really been into diesel. I've always been petrol head, as they say, you know. But the only problem with diesel is I have to have a limiter on them, because with a petrol engine will get up to its maximum and it'll just stop at its maximum. And with a diesel engine, unless you've got a limiter on it, if you don't have a limiter on it, it will shake itself to bits. It just go and go and go and go and go and go. That's why you have to have these limiters, you know. But now it says here, Mark Anthony says, there are people where I work still, oh God, you joke, still wearing face nappies after all this time. It's sad, but shows the only was a mind one. Yes, I hope don't mind me not reading that out, Mark. But well, I probably told you this the other week. Where I live, it's semi-rural, and I was out on my bike the other week having a nice little pedal around. You know, I was having a whiz, you know, there was like this, and watching the motorists going, "Hello, you've got two wheels on your bicycle, and there's only one of you on your bicycle." Yeah, very polite they are, and something about off. Can't remember what it was. No, I'm joking actually, but and there's this woman. I feel sorry for her actually. She's walking along, and she's got the full what's the name on mask on it. She's taking her dog for a walk, and there's no one there. I was the only person the other side of the road on my bike. There's trees and flowers and grass. That's all that's there. Nobody there. But I feel sorry for her because she's scared. The worry has got to her. And I'm guessing she probably lives on her own. I don't know. But, you know, you think about it. It's sad. And I've noticed it seems to be mainly the older generation that do as they're told, or the younger generation. Strangely enough, I still see a lot of youngsters wearing these masks, which is weird. Don't know why, you know. But now it says here, whoops, I've lost myself here. Now, I like a Toyota, made many good cars. Well, thanks, Ancient Ruby, my Toyota was actually made in Japan. It's immaculate condition. It's only done 44,000 miles. It's a 1989. I think there's only 5 or 6 left on the road. It's a Toyota Carina. And the quality of workmanship is good on it. The only trouble is getting the parts. You can't get the parts very, very easily. They're very difficult to get. You have to sort of adapt parts from other cars, but it doesn't really need parts that often. But it's a beautiful car. You know, I've had it since 1991. So it's, you know, it's a beautiful car. I love it. And there's something about Toyotas. They lost it now in recent years. But if you get a Toyota that's over 10 years old, hang on to it, because there's something about Toyotas. Because I mean, if you buy the, what's it now, Aygo, it's actually made on the same production line as Peugeots and Citroens, and all they do is put a different badge on it. And it's a very basic car. I'm not really into Aygoos or anything like that, you know. But yeah, it says here, yes, Ruby, he is a very clever, uneducated young man, as a son, who told me about the New World Order when he was 14. He is now 30. That's interesting. Yeah. Some I would never have. Same. I would never have an electric. That's a car, for they are designed to fail. Yes, and the New World Order can pull the plug on them at any time they wish. And did you know that Range Rovers know exactly where you are and who's driving it, the lot? They've got management systems on their Range Rovers, because I think there was a case where someone lied. I think it was a son. Oh, I'm talking about, must have been 10 years ago, where there was, son borrowed his father or mother's Range Rover, was involved in a I don't know what, I don't know if it's a speeding charge accident or something, I can't remember. But there was no witnesses, but Range Rover knew where he was, and I think they knew who was driving. So, you know, that is something, you know. Talking about electric cars, I asked my hubby why he parks near them when they are charging. He said because he hasn't seen a good explosion since Fred Dibner passed away. Do you like that? Oh, he was a character, wasn't he? The only trouble is, he used to be in his traction head. There's this bloody great queue of cars. That's one thing when I'm on my bike. Because I'm a motorist as well, I cycle as if I'm a motorist. So I try not to hold people up. So if there's any cars behind me, I get off out the way and let them pass if I can. You know, because I know what it's like, because I always curse bloody cyclists when I'm in the car. Get out of the bleeding way. See, this Lurex covered arse in front of you. Why do they wear that? Yeah. Funny enough, there's a big glossy bike shop. I think it's Evans, opens out of town shopping centre here where I live. And I was out of interest, I was having a wander around and had a laugh and joke with the characters. Can I help you? So I said, well, I sort of had t-shirt, jeans on. I said, I'm in my cycling gear at the moment. I said, you don't sell flat caps and pipes for these, but cyclists do. Luckily, he could see this. He was rolled up in laughter. But no, because I was sort of looking at the gear, and it looks like the sort of things they put on sausages, isn't it? I mean, I think anybody over the age of 25, it should be illegal to wear those tight-fitting shorts, But yes, it's funny, isn't it? And the men, why do they always put their fruit down the front of their trousers when they're cycling? I don't understand it. But no, I am strictly jeans and t-shirt, or might be shorts. Yes, if it's very, very warm. Right, it says here, Mark Anthony, I have a 200. Oh, you like older cars as well. 2004 Mazda 3. It's one of the most reliable cars I've had, and it's ULEZ compliant also. Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw my 2002 smart car. But I've actually had two people offer to buy it from me. I thought, yeah, it's a bit bloody funny. What do I want to buy a 20-year-old car for? But I now realise it's because of ULEZ, But I've got a funny feeling they won't be able to enforce it, because people are saying they're just going to ignore it. Because how can they enforce it if people ignore it? I think what they'll do is two things. Either go for some people and make them an example, or they'll abolish it, abandon it, and go for the pound, was it pay per mile, where it'd be £1 per mile to drive your car if it's not compliant. so they can stick that up where the sun doesn't shine anyway. But we won't go on to talking about Blade Runners, these people that, yes, we won't go, who deal, shall we say, adjust the cameras. Yes, that's all. Now it says, this is Louise Wilcox says, our old Mercedes is it really ULEZ compliant too? And it's a 2003. Funny how the newer cars seem to fail the ULEZ test. And Ancient Ruby said, I had a Toyota Corolla years ago, loved it. Did you know that was the most common car in the world at one time? More people had Toyota Corollas. It's a bit like the Model T Ford was the most common car in the 1920s and 30s. There's more Model T Fords in the world than almost any other car. And it's the same with the Toyota Corolla. I think there's more Toyota Corollas. And yeah, I love them. Well, the Carina was a sort of, it has Corolla parts fitted to it. It's very similar to a Corolla. But it says here, Ancient Ruby says, my MOT man could not get the part for my Peugeot and had to use a bush on the cracked engine mount. Did he really? That must have been painful. And I'm not going to make many parts for them anymore. A vile push to make it hard and into electric. Yes, because apparently they stopped officially. They stopped making parts for cars after 10 years. But I've got a funny feeling the Chinese will sort of start something, because they're very, very enterprising. And the big trouble, you get something from China like brakes and that, I wouldn't do that. You don't know the quality of it, and things like, all right, I might chance a body part of a car, which you're not, you can always fill it with fiberglass or something if it's a bit out of shape. But if it's a component to do with your safety, like brakes and that, I always make sure I have very high quality. And the thing I always do is change the oil after 3,000 to 4,000 miles and the oil filter, because it's the oil that breaks down first. And it makes your engine, your engine will last that much longer. But as I say, it's very, very easy. See me glugging here. Now it says here, did you know that any car with any computer can be hacked? Yes. I think that I was quite surprised. I mean, my smart car has computer bits in it. They can plug bits and bobs into it. It's got a thing called a SAM unit underneath the seat, passenger seat. And if that goes, you're talking about 500 notes to replace it. So, that's... and also the headlights. That's the good thing about my Toyota. It's got glass headlights, whereas the smart car's got plastic ones. And of course, the sun breaks the plastic down, and they're all foggy. And it says here, Hereditous Getfolk says, my chromosome wants cars and motors. Your what? Chromosome wants cars and motors. Does he really? Blimey. Ruby says, the problem is mechanics will only purchase new parts, but if you get the parts you need from the scrapyard, most of them don't like to put them on. Well, the trouble is, I used to love going to scrapyards. They were a bit dangerous, Bloke used to say, bloke said, oh yes, third one up over there, and I used to sort of, I quite like being up to my neck in shit and muck. I used to go there with my old socket span on, undo bits, and blokes say, give us a fiver for that. Health and safety, no. And I don't know any scrapyards around where I live now. There's none. There used to be loads of them, but they've virtually gone now. Which is a shame, really, because this is the thing. They're talking about this green, all this crap, but it used to be far more, shall we say, environmental years ago than they are now. Because if you wanted a part that's, you go to a scrapyard, but now you can't do that. I don't know of any around now. The nearest one, I think there's one in Essex somewhere, but there used to be loads of scrapyards. But it says here, Ancient Ruby. The problem is, oh, sorry, I've just I just said that. It says here, I think that he done just that, yet still charged me brand new. That's the thing. I tell you, a place, you know, these quick fitting places where they fit things fast. I won't say the name of it because I've got good lawyers. I went to. I was in a hurry once. Now I normally do the exhaust pipe, do it myself. But I think I was going away for the weekend or something like that years ago. And I used to have a Toyota Estate as well as the one I've got now. And the Estate, the exhaust pipe was about 2 inches longer than the saloon. And of course, they put it up on the ramp. And a bloke with a cigarette got underneath. And he starts, oh, it's all right, don't worry. And I've never seen anything like it. And of course, it's 2 inches shorter, so he bodged it up. And I just drove out, and anyway, cut a long story short, in the end, I threatened to go to the trading standards and things like that, and they gave me money back, and I then fitted the proper exhaust, and it was a Walker's exhaust, and it lasted for years. Brilliant it was. It was an English one, Walker's. I don't know if they're still going or anything like that, you know. But again, if you do it yourself, you don't get. I mean, when you see these idiots, the worst one, I went to a place where the tracking was out on a car that I had, and I won't say what name it was, and they had a garage in Harlow and also had a garage in Hoddesdon, you see, which is about 10-15 miles from Harlow. And I went into their Harlow garage, and I thought, this bloke's, what on earth is he doing? And I was watching him. He didn't have a clue. He didn't even understand, you know, when you screw something up, which way it goes, and when you unscrew it. And he's doing the tracking, and I thought, no, he doesn't know what he's doing. And he said, oh, it's all right, mate, that'll do. And I thought, this is a bodge up. So when I drove out, the tracking was all over the place. It was terrible. So I drove straight down to their Hoddesdon branch, and it said, have your tracking checked free, you see. So I said, could you check it, please? So he said, yeah. Oh, blimey, he says, it's a mile out. I said, well, I've just had this done at your place about half hour ago at Hoddesdon. Sorry, at Harlow. And he went, and the manager came on the scene, and I've never heard such bullshit. Well, it's all right if you're driving straight, sir. I said, and I'll never forget it. I stood there. I said, excuse me, would you please stop insulting my intelligence? You know, my grandfather was an engineer. My father was an engineer. Could you please stop? You know, are you joking? And they still carried on with the bullshit. And they said, oh, customers can't get under the car. I said, I'm sorry, this is my safety. And again, they didn't have a clue. And eventually I took it to another garage, and I kicked up a hell of a stink when I got the money back on that one. And they just put it completely out, totally out, the tracking. But again, it's in their interest, because you can always tell, if you look at the front tyres, if there's wear down the outside of your tyre. With power steering, you will always get that to a certain extent. And you've got the Ackerman principle, because you've got the front wheels always go inwards on a car, because otherwise when you go around a corner, it wouldn't, you know, it's geometry and that type of thing. It's called the Ackerman principle. And the thing is that, but if you've got excessive wear down one side, then you'll know that, you know, your tracking is out. But as long as you don't hit pavements and things like that, you should be okay. But I actually had a Nissan Sunny once, and that was notorious. I could never get the tracking right on that. I think it might have been a design fault with it. I don't know. But, you know, it was very, very bad. Now, it's interesting. Ancient Ruby has said, the world is a throwaway toyland. with kids ruling our world, playing war games. Yes, it is a throwaway. It's a bit like us when I had a television. I saw one of these cookery programs, how to cook on a budget. Okay, how to cook on a budget, and they showed you how to make this cheap casserole or whatever, and they put this small casserole in this big oven. In my household, when I was a kid, my mother would never do that. You'd have to put things in with a bloody shoe stretcher. Everything was crammed in. My mother used every part of that oven to make sure she, as it was powering that oven, she'd get everything as cooked as possible. So it'd be cakes, casseroles, everything for the week in the oven. And I don't use the oven now, but when I did, I would always fill the oven up. You know, you could hardly, everything was piled on top of each other. And because again, you don't waste. But again, to me, that just comes natural, you know, because I'm a tight-fisted git, you know, take big steps to save on shoe leather, that type of thing. You know, if you meet a girl, meet her inside the cinema, not outside the cinema, so she pays her own. You know, see, tricks from tight-fisted bastards. You know, I have a friend that runs his own scrapyard. My uncle used to own one, and so did Hobby's dad. But they both got closed down by the council. One to build a business park, the other for Heathrow expansion. Yeah, it's well, the biggest scrapyard I know of is the M25 motorway, isn't it? I think it's the biggest car park, isn't it? The M25. Yes. Now, yes, Ruby. They are taught to buy the next more expensive one rather than fix the fixable. Yes, that's it. Yes. There it says here what we got here. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Even my 2-year-old granddaughter has learned that one from granddad. Yeah. Well, it's a sort of a mindset. You know, I mean, for example, I throw things away. You've got to, because it's easy to clutter things up. But it's surprising what you could make yourself. I mean, for example, those balls that I put on top of the fence. People, you know, where'd you buy them? And, you know, you can buy them. Yeah, I can buy them, yes. But if you buy those balls, that is the, where is it now? Yeah, these balls. There we go. Yeah, these balls. If you buy them, you either get them in wood or plastic. And I don't want the plastic ones up there. And timber ones will rot away. And it's what everybody else has got. Nobody's got anything like that. It's unique. It's a one-off. Nobody's got it. So that way, you've got something unusual. And I like unusual. You know, this is the thing. But more top tips. People buy, this is a cycling top tip, expensive locks to lock their expensive bikes up. Now, one way of securing a push bike, buy, yes, an expensive lock, a chain. Never ever buy a combination lock. They can be picked with ease. A schoolboy could pick a combination lock, always lock and key. Buy one expensive one, okay, to lock the bike. But remember, someone can come along with a steel saw and cut through the chain. But the other one, which will get them, is to go to the pound shop and buy one of those suitcase padlocks, little tiny ones, about that big. Okay. And then get a label, plastic, you know, those key labels you can buy. Put it on the lock. Then put the lock through the chain of your bike, and no one's going to steal your bike, because if they've got a steel saw, they're going to knacker the chain up trying to get it off. They're not going to pick a lock that small. They'll think, oh, sod it, and go to another bike. So that's what I do. But remember, put one of those plastic label things, you know, what you have on keys, key fob, on the lock, because you could cycle off and leave it on and fall out over tit and knacker up your own bike. So that's another little tip that I do. And again, it only costs you £1 from the pound shop, and you get 3 for £1. So that's another cheap saving. Or you can just get additionally another lock and just put it through your bottom bracket around the chain, and that actually secures it very, very well. Because they're going to have a lot of hassle and they want to ride away with it. The other thing is with your car, I made my own crook lock for my Toyota, which is again unusual, and with a padlock, because crook locks are easy to get off. But you can have a dead key which cuts the electricity off the car, so you can't start it or anything like that. But another tip, but I don't do this, is if you've parked in a quiet area, okay, but there's people around but it's quiet, when you get out the car, leave your radio at full volume, okay. So if someone breaks into your car and starts it up, it blasts out and everybody looks around. Little tip like that. So and it'd scare them; they might run off. So, but that's another top tip: leave your radio on at full blast. But remember to turn it down before you start your car up, because you're going to get blasted. Little tips like that, and it's surprising. Just do what they don't expect. If you do the unusual, people don't actually expect it. So that's it. We'll be coming up to time. We're going early this week because I'm on my own. Hopefully, we might get Deb back soon. Next week, we've got a special 8 o'clock. I can't wait for it. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a real good one with Jerry, and I'm going to have to look his name up again because I can't remember it. Where is he? Jerry Mawinski. And if anybody's in the Stanford Abbots area tomorrow, I'll say hello, and I'll be there, and I'll be watching Jenny Lynn about growing plants, so that's going to be interesting. So it'd be nice to meet you if you're out there that way. 7 o'clock it is, Stanford Abbots. Again, details are on my Telegram channel. And what's this got here, Louise? It says here, there is no reward to us for buying things, but there is a great reward when you make things. That's right. Yes. And then remember, the people that can make things, because remember, the last generation to make things were the wartime generation, because it was made to amend. So they knew how to make things go a long, long way. And really, it's true what Chris the gardener said the other week: potatoes fill you up and they're easy to grow. So that's another thing with growing and things like that. But I hope you like this top hacks and top tips thing. I hope you've got away with a few more tips and things like that. I've got loads more I could tell you and the other thing is, if you buy yourself a sewing machine, which you do need to save, I actually inherited my one. Mine's a Singer, 1941 it was built. I can tell by the number. If you look up the number on the internet, you can tell what year it's built. It's built in Scotland. I think it's Glasgow they were built. You don't need a fancy sewing machine. You can pick them up very cheap, and they're built like tanks, and they go and go and go and go, and you can still get the parts for them. So that's another top tip. Buy an electronics one, and the electronics are screwed up, you're screwed. Whereas a simple one, that's all you basically need. And that's it. Anyway, thank you for joining me this week. It's been great having you here. It's funny not having a guest, but again, there'll be Jerry next week, Mawinski. Then the week after, I'm not sure whether it's going to be Andrew Johnson or John Hamer. Either one of those two coming on. And we've got a mystery guest coming on after that. So it's going to be quite an exciting time. And we also have Shannon coming back as well. She's had a bit of trouble where she is. That is she's in California in America. And of course, Jerry Mawinski, he's actually in America. I think he must be over towards that seaboard where Shannon is, because 8 o'clock our time, he said it's sort of 12 o'clock his time. So he's on the same time frequency as Shannon. So he's probably over that side, as they call it, the western seaboard, I think it is, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and see you same time, same place next week. And remember, please, oh, I forgot to, oh yes, please subscribe. I almost forgot it then. Put the old thumbs up like that, and whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And whilst I'm trying to find it, where the bleeding hell have I put it? I've got to do the outro and I've forgotten. Oh, it is. And see you next week. Thank you very much and good night.